Welcome, everybody. I am Jim Mazziotti, and welcome to Senior to Senior. Today, my conversation invites us to rethink something many people quietly wrestle with, and maybe especially seniors, and that is what is possible for me. Our guest today doesn't just answer that question, she lives it. Patti Shales Lefkos is a former teacher and school principal from Canada who dedicated her early life to shaping young minds, particularly in inner city schools, where resilience wasn't just taught, it was lived every day. But what makes Patti's story so remarkable isn't just the life she's built, it's the life she chose to build next. At 60 years old, when many began to slow down, Patti made a bold and uncommon decision. She went back to school, reinvented herself as a journalist, and began a whole new chapter rooted in curiosity, courage, and discovery. That led her pathway around the world to the mountains, villages, and sacred spaces of Nepal. What started as a journey became something far deeper. Through her experiences, captured in her powerful memoir, Nepal, One Day at a Time, Patti found herself not only trekking through some of the most remote regions on Earth, including the mysterious and rarely visited Upper Mustang, often referred to as the Forbidden Kingdom, but also forming deep relationships with the people who live there, relationships that would ultimately lead her to help build a school and later establish a nonprofit, Nepal, One Day at a Time. She, if that wasn't enough, at age 77, Patti took on one of the most physically and mentally demanding challenges imaginable, trekking nearly 500 miles over 75 days on the Great Himalaya Trail. But here's what makes her story so powerful. This isn't just about distance, it's about determination. It's about loss, reinvention, courage. It's about purpose. It's about stepping into the unknown, sometimes in the middle of life's most difficult seasons, and discovering that there is more ahead of you than behind you. Patti's newest upcoming book, which will be released early next year, is entitled Nepal, It's Never Too Late. And it continues even deeper into her journey, exploring love, resilience, and what it truly means to live fully, no matter your age. So today, whether you're feeling inspired, uncertain, or simply wondering what your next chapter might look like, I want you to lean into this conversation because this isn't just Patti's story. There may be part of it that's yours too. So let's welcome Patti Shales Lefkos. Patti, welcome so much to my podcast.
Thank you. It's great to
I'm
be here.
so glad you're with me. So you inspired me with this book that I found, and this is what it looks like, Nepal, One Day at a Time. And it's a wonderful, beautiful book that you've gifted us all with. So we'll talk about that. Let's start a little bit and talk about you and talk about your early years in Canada and what shaped you. What shaped you growing up to help develop you to who you are today?
Well, I think it was, I grew up in Toronto in a suburb, and it was before so much screen time, and we played outdoors a lot. But it was summers at our family cottage on a little island off the grid near Algonquin Park in Ontario. That's what really shaped me. We stayed all summer. The day school was out, we went and we stayed all summer. We had no electricity till I was 13. And we just, and mo hardly any motorboats or anything. It was mostly canoe and rowing and fishing and swimming, and that's what we did. And
Yeah.
I
So
had a
you
brother
you
and two
made
sisters.
you everything you did, you created yourselves with whatever you had in the environment.
Oh, absolutely. We built forts on the island. Our island is about 4 acres. We're the only people on it, except my grandparents on another island and great uncles on the farm on the shore. And my family's been there. I'm seventh generation. So it was just a lot of simple outdoor life, really
And
tenting at first, even.
do you still go there? I mean, your family still
Oh,
has it?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so
We
you
have
spent summers.
we have about seven properties. Nieces and nephews and people have bought shore property on other islands, and that's where the clan gathers every summer.
Oh,
And the nice part is we can all gather in front of our old cottage where I grew up that my dad finally built when the tent wore out. But we can all go back to our own places too, which makes it great because you can only have so much family every day. And it works really well. So I get to see all of my nieces and nephews and great nieces and nephews. I wouldn't know them at all except for that place.
yeah. And not too many people have a place like that, do they? I mean, we're separated by so many miles and it's so hard to get together. But so you spent years as a teacher and eventually as a principal working with inner city children. Tell us what you learned with working with inner city children. That has its own challenges of its own.
Um, Well, every day, you're making a difference pretty
Yeah,
well.
yeah,
But it taught me, the first big lesson was it taught me that I came from privilege. And I
mm,
certainly did not come from a wealthy family. I always thought, we were kind of poor because when I wanted to take skating lessons, I had to quit piano. But, I was English Canadian. Both my parents and my grandparents went to university. I came from this very different kind of place
hmm,
from the people coming, and we had many waves of refugees coming through the school from Vietnam, Cambodia, Guatemala, El Salvador. And the incredible resilience of these kids and their families was just absolutely amazing. And the richness of all their cultures. It was really something. But I had to also learn that I had to be not just the principal, but I had to form a team around me and have a lot of collaboration and get the very best out of all the staff. Because people that stayed teaching in a school like that, you had to love the kids and love the families
yeah.
because it was heartbreaking and difficult lots of
Oh,
times.
and and it still is, and
Yes.
maybe now it's more difficult than ever. I'm not sure. My daughter is a teacher and an instructional coach in a school,
Mhm.
and of course, she and the teachers deal with people from all over the world. And so there are a lot of challenges that are happening in schools today, as there were when you were there, in making sure that kids are taken care of and to understand where they're coming from and what their needs are. So
Mhm.
after your really full and a meaningful career in education, I guess most people would have a wish to slow down a little bit and retire, do whatever, maybe just chill out a little bit. But you chose to start over. You went back to university, you went back to school at 60 to pursue a degree in journalism, to further your education. Uh, Tell us how that all happened and why. Why didn't you slow down at 60 as so many people do?
Well, I'd always wanted to be a writer. When I was 10 years old, my maternal grandfather left each of the grandchildren $100, which was big time. It was
Yeah,
1956, I guess.
yeah,
And mom and dad just said, buy whatever you want, but buy something that will be important that you'll remember grandpa for. And so I bought a typewriter and said, I'm going to be a writer and started to do that. But when it got to the time for post-secondary, the only courses were a year or two for journalism in those days. And my
yeah,
parents really encouraged me to get a degree. And then I come from a family of teachers. It just seemed like a no-brainer to kind of enter teaching, and I loved it.
yeah.
I was always good with kids and I loved it. So I don't regret that at all. I'm really lucky that I could do both.
And
So
what did you teach when you were in the classroom?
I taught grade two, grade three, grade four, grade five, grade six, grade seven. I kind of wended my way up through.
Yeah.
And then became a vice principal and a principal. I taught French as a second language as well. So,
So you covered a lot of subject areas and a lot of different age groups and met a lot of
mhm.
kids. So how did travel? How did travel enter this whole thing for you?
Well, travel started actually when I was when Ontario had a grade 13 for high school, and I was lucky enough to go to Switzerland to a little town called Neuchâtel, where they had a Neuchâtel Junior College, and you could go and do your grade 13 and write all the same exams. And I was the third kid in the family, and mom and dad sold the house. They wanted to move to downtown Toronto, so they had enough money to send me to this school. It's outrageous now, but it wasn't then.
Yeah, yeah.
And my bedroom, when I had my desk and I was doing my homework, I looked out across Lake Neuchâtel to the Alps, the Swiss
Mm,
Alps. And then I came home and I did not have a passport again till I retired. My husband and I did lots of outdoor trips, in Canada and the United States, but
mhm.
we didn't go at all. So when we retired, we got passports, and after my journalism program was finished, we headed out and started traveling.
And why Nepal?
Well,
What
uh,
started that whole thing?
first, well, I married a mountaineer, a fellow teacher who was also a mountain guide, so that was part of it. But we went to first England for kind of a shakedown. I'd never done any kind of backpacking more than 2 days in a row. And that was 9 days, the half of the coast to coast trek. And pretty easy. You stay in nice pub B&Bs at night and they carry your luggage ahead. So it's a day pack thing.
Yeah, yeah.
And that was good. We enjoyed that. And my husband's very strong, not a problem for him. So we ended up going to Tibet next to go. And we went on other than lots of places in Tibet, but the backpacking section was a 3-day trek around sacred Mount Kailash. And it tops out at about 19,000 feet, the pass that you go over. And I had never been at altitude before, but we went very slowly and acclimatized carefully.
Did you train? Did you train for it
Oh,
before you went?
absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Lots of carrying a pack, and you can't train at altitude. We don't have it here like that, but we
Right.
trained on lots of hills and, you know, anyhow, that worked out okay. And we kind of wanted to volunteer and help because we saw the need and the poverty. But because of the Chinese government, it's very difficult to volunteer in Tibet. And then, but we wanted to see other mountains. So Nepal was the obvious choice to start with.
So, for those that are watching, and for those that are listening, I'm going to be pointing to a map is actually behind me. So, for those that don't know where Tibet is, you can kind of see it right behind me. If
Oh,
I
it's
can,
right behind your head.
yeah,
Yep.
it's right behind me there. There's Nepal, and Mustang Valley is right where my finger is, I believe,
Mhm.
right in
Mhm.
this area.
Yeah.
Of course, China is all my head, and so much more behind me. So that's where you were. So for those that have never been there before, and I would guess I'd be pretty accurate in that probably be just about all of us listening to the podcast. Describe Nepal. Describe the people, the energy, and what made it and makes it so deeply meaningful to you.
Um, Even though I was quite terrified the first night we went there,
Yeah,
um,
yeah,
because when you go into, we tend from the West Coast, we tend to fly Hong Kong and then on to Kathmandu. You get into Kathmandu at about 10 o'clock at night. It's dark. The parking lot is absolute chaos of taxis that want your attention. Luckily, we had a company expecting us. So it was fine, but it was still pretty scary. And then you get into Kathmandu and it's quite wild. Not, I don't find it unsafe at all. I wander around myself now by myself, but at the time it seems like chaos. It's quite incredible. But then you get out into the villages and the mountains and you meet incredible people. It's 80% Hindu, 20% Buddhist, and smattering of other groups, many different languages and dialects, but an incredible warmth and welcoming people. We always say you go for the mountains, but you go back for the people. They're just amazing. You'd be in some remote, tiny village, and a monk will come out of the monastery and invite you in for tea. And he has nothing. They have,
yeah.
but they always will welcome and share.
Yeah.
And they're great at celebrations, dancing and music and fun, and they're wonderful people.
And how was the language barrier? Was it difficult? Did you learn the
Uh,
language?
the first, we lucked upon a company that friends had gone with, a trekking company, and our guide knew a fair amount of English. That was in 2011, the first time. He knows a lot more now, and he's still our guide and our friend.
Yeah.
Um, and he taught me some Nepali. I like to learn new languages.
Hmm.
I'm getting a little bit better every time we go back. I practice a little more,
Hmm.
but certainly we had him as a an interpreter at all times. And the owner of the company speaks perfect English. So
And he's all through your book. I mean, he is,
yes,
with you.
Raj, yeah.
Yeah, he's with you on the journey. And so I would imagine that you built quite a close relationship with him. I
Yes. He went from calling me ma'am to Miss Patty to Patty ma'am, and now he calls me Amma, which is like mom.
uh geez. Well,
Yeah.
it doesn't get much closer than that, huh?
Yeah.
Um,
And he thinks of my husband Barry as we're like surrogate parents, kind of, you know.
yeah, yeah.
He,
Well, you
for instance, during the COVID epidemic, he wrote to us, okay, um, which vaccine is the best? What should we do about this kind of thing? We give him that type of advice.
Yeah, yeah. Well, he was with you and is a huge part of the book. So tell us about um, the Forbidden Kingdom. What of Upper Mustang? What is that? And uh, what did you experience there that left obviously a lasting impression upon you and your husband?
Well, we went there in 2011 for a very short time when Barry was with me. And then when I went back in 2014 alone with Raj, I wanted to spend more time there. It's an area of, it's ethnically Tibetan people, but within the border of Nepal. The geographical border cuts it off from Tibet, but
Hmm.
they are Tibetan people.
Hmm.
And the capital is a medieval walled kingdom. And we met the 25th honorary, or not honorary, ancestor, king before
Okay.
he died. He was kind of demoted to Raja when they put the border in. So they became part of Nepal. But it was the kingdom of Lomantang. And we met him then and had tea with him. You know, it's because it's Tibetan, Buddhism is very prevalent in everything that everyone does. There are two ancient monasteries in the capital city. It's just, it's a very arid, remote feeling place. Not so much anymore. That was in 2011 and 2014. When we were going through in 2014, they were completing a road, and it has changed things, but it's also allowed electricity to go to some of the places and made it easier for the people. I
Hmm.
mean, it's funny because as Westerners, we all think it's very magic. Well, it
Yeah.
wouldn't be so magic if you had to live there in the winter, you
Uh-huh.
know.
Yeah.
So,
I would think there would be so much overwhelm, Patty, when you went there the first time. I mean,
um,
was it magical? Was it overwhelming? What was the feeling like?
oh, definitely magical.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And you're so alert at all times. And I don't mean that being frightened. I just mean alert to everything that's new all the time.
yeah.
And it's quite amazing to.
Your senses must be awakened when when you go to a place like that. Yeah, and it's just so new. So your book, which I'll show it once again for those that are listening. I'm holding up your book, which is called Nepal, One Day at a Time. It's available on Amazon. It's a perfectly wonderful read, but it tells a story. It's deeply personal. I would say. You went to Nepal during a difficult season in your life, and you were obviously searching for something. What
Mhm.
was it? What was it that you were searching for?
I guess to prove to myself that I could do that kind of thing independently. I didn't, first of all, my husband Barry and I had planned to return to our guide Raj's village and teach, but then Barry ruptured his Achilles tendon. And then I was 67, and I thought, if I wait too long, I might never get this chance. And also, my best friend had cancer. She's since beat it and is as old as I am and quite healthy. But, my parents had died. My older sister was diagnosed with early onset dementia. And I thought, I could be next. I don't know what's going to happen to me. I'm very healthy, but.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, with my husband's blessing, I decided to go by myself. And I really wanted to prove that I could do
You
that
could do it.
physically and emotionally.
Yeah. And so you were 67 at
Mhm.
that time.
Yeah.
And so when you went, that was your first journey? Was that your first journey or the second one?
That was the second,
The second
because
one without
yes,
Barry,
I
without,
knew I'd been there, and I said I won't go back by myself unless Raj is standing right outside the airport to pick me up. And
yeah.
he never left my side. He was always there. Even when I was teaching, he changed from being a guide to being my classroom assistant in the village school. He's very good with kids, so it worked out okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
marvelous. And so, you know, the first time
Mhm.
I'm guessing when you went home, you weren't the same person. And when you went back again and you went without your husband because of his injury, which is a pretty brave thing to do. I don't think I could do that. Uh, I'm guessing you didn't come back again the same person that you were when you returned the first time. How does a journey like this, how does it change you, or how do you see that it actually made you a better person, a better human?
Um, I think I gained a lot of confidence in knowing that I could do that kind of thing on my own.
Yeah,
Just an inner strength that I didn't have,
yeah.
you know.
Well,
Um,
and you weren't, you doubted yourself. There's no question
oh,
about that.
absolutely.
Um,
Lots of times.
Yeah, I mean, you laid it out in the book, and you said it well. It was a very difficult experience, but when you went, you didn't just visit. You stayed, you connected, and you ultimately helped build a school. And
Mhm.
how did that opportunity come to you? Did you didn't go there for that, did you? Or
No,
was
no, not at all. I
so how
went,
how
I
did
went
that happen?
to volunteer in a village school and then trek in the Forbidden Kingdom of Upper Mustang to interview people for travel articles. That's what I thought I was doing. But after my volunteer stint was over, my guide Raj took me to another village that had no assistance from outside. Like the village we were in had some Rotary Club assistants from Australia, and they were getting along okay. So Raj took me to this other village called Aprok Village, and they knew I was coming. And two long rows of students in their blue shirts offered me flowers as I walked. I felt like Queen Elizabeth, honestly. It was like very, very welcoming, a royal welcome. And then they showed me the school that was 55 years old and falling down, and the top floor was condemned, but the kids were still having classes underneath. And the rain was coming through, so they had to have umbrellas in class, various things like that. And they asked me would I help them build a school. And I thought, they think all Westerners are rich or
Uh-huh.
what?
Yeah,
I said I will try, but I left feeling like a real imposter.
I
And
bet.
then one thing happened before I came home when we were in Upper Mustang. We went north of the medieval kingdom of Lomantang, of the capital city, and I met a monk who was building and organizing a monastery school for all the children up there that either didn't have families or couldn't afford to go to school, or there were no schools. It was too close to the border of Tibet. And he would go to Singapore and do Buddhist teachings for 4 or 5 months a year and bring back all the money and then build more school. And it was really interesting. He had a fair amount of English, and he kind of encouraged me and gave me a bit of confidence about me. Well, maybe you could do this. And he was a principal, I was a principal, it was like talking to another
Uh-huh.
educator. And
Hmm.
that helped a lot too.
So originally the stint was a 2-week deal, wasn't
Mhm.
it? It was a 2-week
Yes.
stint, and it just grew from that. Um,
Yeah.
you were hooked.
very
They,
much so.
yeah, they were hooked on you, and you were hooked. I want to see if I'm able to share a picture, and I'm probably not going to be able to. Nope, I'm not going to be able to. But there's a wonderful picture in your book. There's wonderful pictures in there, and one of them is you standing against what looks to be what would be in the United States a blackboard. I don't know if it was a blackboard,
Oh,
but
the
it was,
whiteboard.
yeah, yeah, it was something you wrote upon, and as you were, I think, doing the alphabet. And if I could, I just want to take a second to read from your book, and this is how you describe um, the classroom that you were in, if I may. Um, you say, I stood on the gray cement floor, surrounded by four rough cement walls, blue, roughly hewn shutters folded open in windows on either side of the room, allowing the mere hint of a breeze. I was so overheated I didn't notice. But I did notice the bare walls. The walls were not lined with the bookcases crammed with readers and boxes of pencils and erasers, crayons, and rainbow stacks of colored paper we take for granted in Canadian classrooms. No signs with alphabet letters, no word charts, no pictures of food, animals, or family members in Nepali or English, no bulletin boards displaying children's art and stories. And that
Hmm.
was your classroom.
Hmm.
How did you adapt to it? Was it easier to adapt to something like that than to maybe be a first year teacher walking into a classroom in Canada or the United States that's completely outfitted with everything? It's such a stark difference. How Tell me how it felt when you were there.
Well, it was a bit of a, to me, it was a disaster. I had made a lot of materials, charts and stuff,
Yeah,
word charts and little dialogue charts they could read and alphabet things from teaching French as a second language. I thought, okay, similar teaching English as a second language. But then you try to put stuff up on the walls and they're cement and they're kind of damp because it's 30 degrees out, 30 Celsius, sorry, but outside. And so everything falls off. So I'd have to get two kids up holding them. And then because there was kind of electricity, they just received it in the village shortly before. We bought a boombox in Kathmandu because I had a CD of easy songs for the kids. I would teach the kids in English songs.
hmm
You know, how to say good morning, can you say good afternoon? It was, they had lots of fun with that. Of course, the electricity never worked. And then we went and got batteries and they didn't work. And I had to go back and I had to practice singing before I went because I hadn't done, I used to sing and play guitar with my kids all the time when I
yeah.
was a teacher. And of course, I hadn't done that for years. So I had to practice singing. And actually, it was pretty bad at first. The whole thing was pretty bad. It was very discouraging. Raj and I would have to go and drown our sorrows. You read that in the book. And the one village 10 minutes below us that had a refrigerator with cold beer. We'd go down and share a beer after school, and I'd, so yes, I think it was much harder than
Yeah.
going into a classroom in Canada. I had so much stuff in my classroom,
But I bet that the kids were so appreciative that you were a gift, something that they
Oh,
had never.
I thought, well, I don't know if I was a gift. It was a novelty at
Well,
first.
sure you were.
But you know what? They did learn those songs and we did have lots of fun singing them. And yeah, we
And
did
the
have
ba-
fun.
and the boombox never worked, and it's probably still sitting on a shelf somewhere or on the floor. They probably don't have
Probably
shelving
is. Yeah. Mhm.
in the classroom. So, what? Tell us about some of the unexpected challenge. Cultural, emotional, everything. What were some of the challenge, not only in the classroom, but just on your trip as a whole? What are some of the most memorable challenges that you had?
Hmm. Well, I'm a good camper, thankfully, because of my growing up on our island. Some people would find it a huge challenge not to have a shower every day. Well, that's not going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, the water, there's one tap in the village. So that was a big challenge. Going to You wrap yourself up in a wrap called a lungi, and then you go and try and wash your hair and stuff under this one tap. But all the other villages are hanging out there too, right? So
Not a lot of privacy there.
no, no, and you just learn how to do it. But that kind of physical stuff. Luckily, not luckily, but I have a bit of asthma, so I couldn't do a homestay because a homestay means you're inside a house where they're cooking inside the house. And the smoke would have bothered me. So I
Mhm.
had a tent beside the school and a cook with me too. So he cooked Western style stuff as well as Nepali stuff. And sometimes we went to houses and visited people. But
Yeah, and I'm looking at your book. There's a picture of your where you stayed, just kind of
oh, below the
downhill.
gates of the school, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And so the tent was basically your home. Is it,
Yes.
do
Oh
I
no, there was a little dining tent too, so I could sit there, at the table and do my homework marking and, have a cup of tea and have my dinner there and everything.
yeah,
But I'm a as I said, I'm a good camper. So, and what they would, you just get used to being like that. It's
sure.
fine. And everybody else is.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm. Yeah, everybody's going through the same thing that you are, so you're not like the
it-
Lone Ranger, right?
one thing, one thing that was really interesting was there were five ladies that came by one day because the path was right above my tent as well. And they wanted to know, they wanted to meet me. And Raj was there. And I said, yeah, tell them to come on down. And they want to see inside the tent because it was so different from their, just like I was curious about them, they were
Uh-huh.
curious about me. And they wanted to know, did I have children and where was my husband? And what the heck was I doing there? And they said when they retired, they were going to put their feet up because the women work very hard in the fields there and
Yes.
they're cooking. And, they have to send a kid to get water at the tap and
Yeah.
come back for making breakfast and tea and everything. It's a challenging life. And so they were quite amazed that I would do this when I could be at home relaxing.
Well, I'm kind of amazed as well. I mean, it's something. So
It
you,
was pretty fun.
oh man. So you founded Nepal One Day at a Time Society. And I think it's very important to get that message out on this podcast and to others that might find inspiration, of course, in what you've done. So, what was the moment that you realized that this needed to become something bigger than just you?
Uh, well, I came home and I thought, but that school, they asked me to help, what can I do? How long would it take? And it, the trekking company that we trek with is called Ace the Himalaya, and they have an NGO attached called Sambhav Nepal. It means Possibilities Nepal.
Okay.
And so I knew I had a trusted partner there, but I had to work on somehow doing something to make money. And while I was, mulling that over, taking too long, the earthquake hit
Yeah.
April 25th, 2015, a year to the day that I had been in the village and they had asked for my help. So a year later, right on the day, I woke up to emails from all my friends. Have you seen the news from Nepal? And that whole village went. Four people were killed. The old school building fell down. Every home in the village went.
Uh,
And Raj sent a picture of his family. He's standing beside his family home where I had had tea in the courtyard with his mom and dad. And it's a pile of stones.
mm,
And so we had a lot of slides from our first trips. And he put together a big slideshow, and we did our first slideshow by donation because we think students should come and other people will over donate maybe. And we
mhm.
made $1,000 the first night, and then that kind of got it rolling. And then I registered the society and I joined the Rotary Club here, where we are in Vernon, BC. They were a humongous help.
That's huge.
Yeah. And then it all just kind of developed and developed and developed.
Yeah, and even the $1,000, which was amazing, that probably goes a long way in Nepal, I
Yeah,
would guess.
yeah.
I mean, that's more money than probably the whole village has with everybody in it and
Yeah.
everybody that they know and so forth. There is, I'm a realtor. I'm part of the Exit Realty franchise, which is actually a Canadian company founded in Toronto 30 years ago. And there are several people, Rotarians in the organization, in the Exit organization. One whose name I should have looked up before we talked, and I sorry I didn't, that goes to India
Uh,
every year. And of course, water is a huge, clean water is a huge issue. So he helps them build and find wells and so they can actually have clean water. And so Rotary is a magnificent organization. And so so far, the impact is continuing, I would guess. You haven't
yeah.
stopped. Your
No, no, no.
what's happening now with that? And
Well,
um,
the first thing we did was build an 8 classroom school back where they had asked. And
yeah,
that took a few years, of course. And then we supplied the school with a lot. I went back a couple of times on my own, supplied, we brought books and supplies, and actually a fellow Rotarian went to see it because he'd been involved in some of the fundraising. He and his wife went after doing the Mount Everest, Everest Base Camp trek. They went to the village and they saw that the staff didn't even have chairs of their own to sit on, so they furnished the staff room. And then the Rotary Club gave 17 computers and a computer lab and stuff for the kindergarten kids because the kindergarten room was half the grade one room, which was a slightly off the floor raised platform with kind of indoor outdoor carpet, no toys, no nothing, no supplies. So they outfitted those kids too. And now we've kind of moved on to another school. Oh, sorry. In the meantime, all that was happening, we they found us a village, young woman from a village who was 10 when we started with her. And she has now graduated from physiotherapy college. We supported her right through school, brought her from the village to Kathmandu. And now we're starting with a second kid. But also when we did our last trek in 2023, the long one, we camped in a playground in an area called Upper Dalpo of a little school, kindergarten to grade 5 with 125 kids. And the principal was very helpful and warm and welcoming. And so we decided to start with $500 for library books.
yeah,
And that was from an Ontario Rotary Club that I go to in the summer. And then this year we were able to give them $6,000. And because we realized, yes, we could trust them and they get back to us when we see pictures and everything. And so we've given a few computers for the staff and supplies for all of the children from kindergarten to grade 5 and all of the uh, sort of library books and supplies and
no,
yeah. And
it,
that's partly that was here's where it gets interesting. I think it's a lot of networking and collaboration. Some of that, $1,000 came from the Ontario Rotary Club. 1,400 came from the Junior Rotary Club at our local high school here. And then we had gathered enough from book sales, and I do presentations and things for clubs. So we put together $6,000 for them. And then the principal comes to Kathmandu and he and Raj go out and shop and Raj pays for things. And then we give him the rest of the money because he has to take 2 flights to get to Kathmandu
yeah.
with it also.
Almost sounds like there could be a sister city kind of relationship, connected where you're at in Canada or whatever. You're doing just so many things. We really haven't even talked about, how you basically completed nearly 500 miles on the Great Himalaya Trail, and your school just is so wonderful. But I want to give a little bit of time for the really, really hard physical work as
Mhm.
far as the trail. Talk a little bit about that. What was maybe we have time for the very best memory of that, something that you're going to take with you the rest of your life.
uh, day 49 of trekking, and there were a few rest days within that, but the 49th day out, we had to cross a very high pass, which was 18,000 feet, I guess, 18,500 feet. And there were you had to go up, down, up, down, up, down, but the highest point was 18,600, I guess. And the day before we started to go up it, the night before, it snowed. And no, 2 days before. And if the snow had continued, we would not have been able to go over that pass, which meant we would have to go south for 8 days to
Oh,
get to
gosh.
an airport to get over into the other area. And so it was pretty horrible. So when we made it over that pass, that was pretty incredible. And at a point, it was our longest day of walking, 10 and a half hours. And at hour 10, our kitchen crew had gone ahead and they'd set up the red tents, and I could see the red tents, and I knew they were there, and we were almost there.
Yeah.
And then finally, I kind of started to feel a real sense of let myself relax a bit and feel a sense of accomplishment. We still had that was 500 miles or something. No, that
Yeah.
was 350 miles. We still had time to go, but that was kind of the big crux of the whole trek was that high pass, and we did it. Yeah.
I just don't know how you did it, but this journey of yours and Barry's has touched a lot of people in your family. It's touched a lot of people. How has your story to date, because I get a sense you're not done with anything yet, how has that impacted those that are closest to you, Patty?
Um, well, my sister died a few years ago. My brother is still with me, luckily. Our family and all my nieces and nephews are extremely supportive, always. And I like to think that I'm a role model for the girls in the family.
Sure.
I have one niece that I know does a lot more physical activity than she ever would have. She's in Toronto. And then a great niece is playing volleyball at Louisiana State University in Baton Rouge, and
Okay.
she's an extreme athlete.
Hmm.
And I just love, and she's looking into journalism. So I love being able to have, and these are all the kids I see at the cottage every summer. So yeah, it's nice to be able to have those. And we don't have our own children, but we're grandchildren. We're honorary grandchildren to kids of a lot of our students. They call us Grand Patty and Grand Mary. And those kids have come a long way. One of the youngest, his name is Kai. When he was about 6, he decided that half of his birthday money from all his other aunts and uncles should go to Nepal, to the kids in Nepal.
Mm,
So yeah, they understand and they're very interested.
yeah. Yeah. So let me ask you, what is something that you learned about yourself that you might be able to um, tell other seniors? Um, what kind of inspiration might you give seniors? Here's what I see a lot. I live in a retirement community. It's called a Del Webb community with retired people. And I see a lot of people that uh, almost seem searching for some kind of purpose, searching for something. And I
Mm.
sense loneliness but what what might be something you would say to those people or to any senior about um, reviving themselves in their later years when a lot of people, as you mentioned, put their feet up? How
Um,
what would you say?
Never underestimate yourself. I mean, you have to start small with lots of things. I usually say, you might start with a walk around the block that might end up in a long hike
Mm-hmm.
5 years from now or 3 months from now. And you might go and read with little children at the library if you like kids, or volunteer in a school. And it only has to be an hour a week. But I just find that it really helps. I did a bit of volunteering in schools here. I haven't lately, but and what my grandfather said who lived till almost 104. If you think you're too old to do it, you better give it a try.
Mm, yeah. Well,
And just in small steps,
yeah,
but
one foot in front of the other,
yeah, exactly.
as you did. So, when your story is fully written, what do you hope those that know you will say that your life stood for? It's pretty deep, but what
Mm.
do you hope people will say? Because I think that's important for us to know.
Other than the fact that I was crazy.
Like a little nuts, yeah, you're a little
Yeah, a little
nuts.
nuts, yeah. No, I think I'd like people to think that I made a positive difference. I made a positive impact on the lives of others.
Yeah.
Not huge numbers of others, but
Well, you you
more than
know
one or two.
you
So
you know you have, and people will get that sense in this book and the book that's coming out early next year. Again, um, I end all of my podcasts, Patty, by asking something that isn't in any kind of uh, materials that I sent to you earlier, but I kind of ask all of my guests. There must be something that I didn't ask that I should have. And what's the one thing that I should have asked you that I didn't, or that you wish that I would have asked that I didn't?
wow, that's a tough one because you had amazing questions and you
Oh,
covered a lot.
yeah.
Um, maybe where inside it comes from, I get my inspiration. And maybe that I think that's from my grandparents. One grandfather was a minister, United Church minister, who did a lot of home visits with people that he used to term less fortunate than others. And then my other grandfather was a science teacher and a real environmentalist. And I think I learned a lot from both of them.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I think the world is thankful that you're sharing it and continue to share it. So, what's your next journey? Are you going to Nepal again soon?
well, yes, we are.
Of
And
course you are.
yes, well, last fall we had a trip booked, but because of political unrest, the Canada Nepal Travel Advisory made it practically impossible to get travel insurance, and we can't play around with that at our age.
Yes.
So we're going back again, September 30th. We fly to Hong Kong, then Kathmandu, then out to the far eastern part of Nepal. It's the only area we haven't been to, and we're doing a trek called the Kachinjunga Base Camp Trek. It's to the base camp of the third highest mountain in the world.
And how long of a trek is that?
Well, most people do it in 22 days. We're stretching it to 30, so we'll have
Hmm.
more rest days. I've made it, we know enough now how many days we can go and how far without. And
Sure.
plus, it'll just be Barry and I and Raj, but we're going to take four porters. So we're going to take tents and a bit of food in case at any point we can't make it to the next village where there is basic accommodation and food.
Well,
It's quite it's very remote. There are very few villages, not like the Everest Base Camp circuit or the Annapurna circuit.
so
So,
are you able to when you do this journey, your next journey, are you able to do you have any kind of internet connection? Are you in places where you do have connection that you can?
well, the phone service is amazing. The
Uh-huh.
cell service is way better than in North America and way cheaper.
Wow.
However, we will carry a satellite phone and what's called a Garmin Mini InReach.
Okay.
And the inReach, if you press the emergency button, apparently within 15 minutes, the alert will go. That doesn't mean anything's going to happen right away, but that calls a helicopter.
Oh man. Well, that's got
So
to be reassuring and
yes,
comforting,
yeah, couldn't go
right?
without that.
Um,
Yeah.
so, how do people, obviously your books are available, and I'd strongly suggest they would purchase your books because you have more than just this. They can find you on Amazon. You have a website that people can go to, Patty, to learn more.
Yes, it's just PattiShalesLefkos.com.
Okay, and I will put that up on this podcast so people, if you didn't write it down, that's okay. I'll put it in the notes so people can find out more about you. And
I also have a couple of pages on Facebook, one just on my name, Patti Shales Lefkos, and the other is Nepal One Day at a Time Society. So I kind of keep those updated, but the website's pretty well updated as well.
well,
It gives a lot more detail about the school projects and
we need
things
to
like
keep up with you. You're kind of you're a crazy and wild lady. That's all I got to say. But I'm sure proud of you and thankful for you, and I know a lot of other people are as well. So, Patti, thank you so much for joining us today on the Senior to Seniors podcast. It's been a real joy, and I've learned a lot from you and your book. You're a person of inspiration, and I hope we can talk again soon. Thank you so much,
that. Thank
Patti.
you. Thank you very much for the
Take
opportunity.
care. All righty. So stop cloud. Just give me a second here.